Hey everybody, Brian here for Work to Game Videos. Thanks for checking out this podcast. We have a podcast every Thursday, so if you like it, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video so you don't miss a single one. Now, with that out of the way, we hope you enjoyed this podcast. Hello, Internet, and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Brian, and joining me is my co-host and the co-chair. You know him, you love him. Chris, say hello.
Hello.
All right, and joining us this week, we have a very special guest, a personal friend of mine. We went to college, has went out to New York and did some acting, then crossed over the entire United States, is in LA, and is doing more acting. And so just some of the notable highlights from his career. He's starred in the lead in the the movie Seahorses. He's also premiered in the premiere episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This season for season 4, and he just starred in True Nightmares, which is on Investigation to Discovery. So if you've seen his work, or if you haven't, you need to follow this guy. Ian Hutton is joining us on the podcast, so I'm very happy to have him. Ian, what's going on, dude?
I'm sitting out here in lovely Los Angeles, having a cigar, having a scotch, and enjoying getting to see my good friend Brian from college and my new friend Chris. I'm very excited to talk to you guys.
So
I'm ready
Ian's
to nerd out.
Ian is doing it right. He's got the scotch, he's got the cigar, and he's outside, which that's the triple threat combo right there for it. So we've got a very special podcast for you today. So the big topic is that we're going to be talking about great moments in our gaming history. So we're going to be focusing on just these big epic moments that just stand out to us for the test of time. So with that, we're going to get this podcast rolling and select start.
Fantastic. Very excited to be back from vacation. Been looking forward to recording a podcast. So nice to see a little bit of LA kind of light shining in on Ian's face right here. You guys can't see it, but it looks like a glamour shot with motion to it. So with that, I do have to ask Ian, have you been playing any good games lately?
I have just finished Witcher 3. I did both of the DLCs on that.
Oh, yeah.
I completely bled that thing dry. I've been playing it for like 9 months. It's been gestating for a long time. But now I think I'm finished, and I'm extremely happy with my experience with the game.
So Witcher 3 is just this giant RPG, and so you finished not just that, but the DLCs, and you said you've been working on that for 9 months. I'm gonna have to check your achievement stats on that, because that sounds like money well spent.
You check my achievement stats. I'm a bit of a, forgive me for saying this, achievement whore, and I think I clocked out at around 1850.
1850 for the game?
I think out of a possible 2,000 with the DLCs,
yeah,
I got around 1850.
That's impressive. That one of the things that for me is a big weakness of mine, and with the exception of this last year where we just primarily focused in on Halo, it's like sometimes you kind of get into the game of the month, or it's like, oh, what's this game? And so you tend to hop, but being able to sit down and just dive into The Witcher 3. So for like I've never played a single Witcher game. What would be your advice to me on that? Like because everybody keeps recommending it. Is it a recommendation?
I highly recommend it, but I didn't play Witcher 1 or 2. A friend of mine had Witcher 3, and he was like, dude, do you want to borrow it? I was like, yes, absolutely.
For 9 months.
Yeah, I know. Thankfully, he had a kid, and he had like Fallout 4 and the new Batman game and like Wonder and Destiny. So he was set. It was after Christmas. Or right before Christmas, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Witcher
it was 3 came out like last summer, so it's like The Witcher 3 has been out for like a year, and they just did some of the DLC. Did you get into that card game? Like, and I don't know the name of it. I know it's coming as a standalone.
Oh my gosh, that card game, Gwent, is what it's called.
Yeah, Gwent.
I was like, oh gosh, this sucks. Why do they keep asking me to play this game? Then my roommate was like, dude, that's my favorite part of the game. So I was like, all right, Zach, I'll try it out. And then every like NPC that I came across, I was like, do you have a card that I can win from you? and just learned the game, built my deck. I'd never done Magic. I'd never done Pokemon or any other. I haven't played Hearthstone, whatever it's called from Blizzard. But I absolutely loved that in-game game. It was really well done.
What I heard is kind of the story behind it, and this is obviously a joke, is that somebody came up with a kick-ass card game, and they were like, how can we design an RPG around this game? And that's how The Witcher 3 was born.
Well, they did a really good job of the secondary game. Is also fun.
Yeah, it's like, all right, going out and doing that stuff. Well, that's awesome. Okay, so Chris, you've been on vacation. Sorry, go ahead, Ian. Do you have something else?
I just want to highly recommend the newest DLC. I think it was Blood and Wine.
Okay.
Very, very good. The whole game is kind of dark and moody, but that DLC was bright, green trees, beautiful water, and the storyline was amazing. I actually played the 2 different forks of the storyline that you can go down. If you guys have Witcher 3 out there,
or do you start a new game? Like, how does that work?
It's like a new game. You can they give you 3 options. I think you can just play the DLC with like a base level 35 I think player, or you can continue your game with all of the stuff that you already have, whatever level you're at. But for all of you Witcher 3 players out there that are wondering if it's worth $10, well worth the $10.
All right. So actually, shout out to the community on that. So anybody out there playing Witcher 3, like my man Ian here, and what are your thoughts on it? So let us know in the comments below. That'd be fantastic to get y'all to weigh in. We were getting constant praise about the game, and especially high praise from Ian himself. So be interested in what if anybody else has checked it out. And at some point, it seems like the recommendations are so overwhelming that I'm going to have to eventually kind of cave and play that game. I have a friend, Abel, and he is just a huge, but he's played all 3 of them, and he's like, you got to play it. I'm like, is this the 3rd one? Is it something, so you never playing a single one, coming in with 3, just in love with it. That's really what the recommendation I was waiting for.
Cool.
All right. So Chris, let's throw it over to you. Like, what you playing?
Well, I took a nice long vacation there. So I actually went a full, I think it was 9 days, 6 hours, 30 minutes without playing video games or something like that.
He's twitching. You guys can't see it, but he's twitching right now.
So when I got back,
I'm doing a podcast. I need to be playing video games, guys. Come on.
Well, what you can't see is we agreed to start recording at a certain time, and Brian was just getting his setup going. So I crammed in just one more Forza race, just because I think he's got. I mean, obviously he's going to take at least 3.5 minutes. I think I can do this. So I am very excited to be back. That is a sign. I did pick up Forza 3. I still like to be finishing up Deus Ex. Haven't picked it back up since I got back. Game night this week. We played a bit of Halo.
There's some issues this week.
There were. Xbox was having a little fun with their party system,
which is
on and off.
Considering how much we've played on Wednesdays, it's one of the most stable networks, and that's what some of the studies have shown. So it is just so shocking, when there seems to be a problem right now. But anyway, sorry I cut you off. So we got Halo.
And I downloaded everything to start playing Final Fantasy for the new patch because I've been watching all the videos that have been coming up on Work to Game, and I'm excited to dive into that, but I've been waiting to play with Brian.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, we were set. Yeah, well, it is. He's a good friend, and so for me, just jumping off that point, obviously played a lot of patch 3.4 that came out just last Tuesday, and unfortunately, this is I was telling the guys this before the podcast, but I got really sick on Monday. And I told Chris, I was like, because typically we were going to record a podcast then, and then we play some Final Fantasy. And I haven't played video games all this week since Monday. I just have been laid out. I'm like, I'm just going to lay down. I'm going to watch, Arrow. get caught up on that show because I am so far behind. And so so we were going to play on Monday, and that's why he hasn't had a chance to dive into 3.4. But for me, outside of this week, it's been Final Fantasy 3.4 and then Forza Horizon, which is a gorgeous game. I was really happy with it, and I'm going to kind of do like some videos on that this week, just kind of focusing in on what's called the Xbox Play Anywhere. So I have it installed on my PC and I have it installed on my Xbox. So you just buy it once, you get it on both platforms, and that was something I was like, I love the Forza series, and the last Forza game I bought was 5. It's kind of like my strategy with Madden and FIFA. It's like I buy them like in kind of like every, there's got to be a decent amount of time between the games, but those are my games, and I'm loving Forza. And then tomorrow, by the time you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to be knee deep in Gears of War 4.
Whoa!
Super excited. Julie, actually, my wife and me, we're big gearheads. We play because it's split screen, and she loves horde mode. So she just loves like these monsters rushing at us, and she, and her big, I guess go-to in kind of those kind of games, the shooter games, is melee. She likes to melee, but in this, she's meleeing with the chainsaw gun.
Yes.
So it's always really quite entertaining. But it's definitely one that when Maddie goes to bed, we can play.
Can I give a shout out to a buddy of mine who's a voice actor on the Final Fantasy?
Oh, which one?
He's in Final Fantasy 15, and he is Prompto Argentum.
I saw the video that they released for the English voice cast.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
His name is Robbie Damon, and I did 2 shows with him in Tulsa. Well, we did Oklahoma together 2 summers in a row. Yeah. And he's a big voice actor out here now, doing anime, doing a lot of video games. Shout out to Robbie Damon, man. He's killing
Robbie,
it.
Yeah. Hey, Robbie, if you want to come on the show, let us know. Especially because 15, I've already got it pre-ordered and ready for the end of November, which I'm thrilled about. And Ian, if you ever happen to get in a voice gig for that, like I'm gonna fanboy out on you real quick. Be like, dude,
nice.
Don't tell me any spoilers, but that's amazing. So anyway, the last bit of news before we go into our break and into our big topic is that this time next week I'm going to be out at the Final Fantasy 14 Fan Fest in Vegas. So if you're listening to the show, if you're listening to the show and you're out there in Vegas next week, feel free to say hi to me. Like I'm pretty social, so I'd love to hear from you and love to say hi to you. And regardless, with that, we're going to go and take our break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about great gaming moments in our history. So stick around. We'll be right back.
All-time favorite games, Brian and I have talked about this, is Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast.
My soul still burns.
Man, that quote sticks with me.
That's actually what you sent me, like on Facebook. Yep. So that's like Ian was in the season premiere of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Look for him. He's right in the opening. One of the guys with the guns. I don't know if your character had a name, but on IMDb it calls you Blondie. And
Blondie, yeah, that's me.
So he's on Facebook. He won't tell me who he is. I'm just thrilled because I was like, yes, my friend is on a main, Marvel series show. But he's like, my soul still burns. And I was just like, okay, we got to talk Soul Calibur. Yeah. So anyway, sorry, I digress.
So SoCal, for you, for the internet out there, for mine and Brian's freshman, was it the whole year?
It was like the whole year and then some, because then you also kind of went Soul Calibur, because you remember, like, if you look at it from a college perspective, like the Soul Calibur 2 came out, and for like the GameCube or whatever, and that's about the time we were seniors. So we played Soul Calibur 1 probably like freshman, a little bit into sophomore year. Took a long break. Halo comes out, blah blah blah. But then Soul Calibur 2 comes out, and we're at what we called the Westmont. So our mutual friend Mark West and I are living together, and so then we're all just coming over and we're playing Soul Calibur 2. So it was like a really good chapter. Anyway, so you digress. I digress.
The first Soul Calibur though was epic. I mean, I played Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and all those one-on-one fighting games like the Super Nintendo and N64 and stuff, but this was a whole nother level. And what was really neat about our freshman year, we were in this dorm called Mark Braun, was that the entire floor got into this game. People
Majorly.
that maybe had never gamed before, like theology majors who were just reading books all the time,
would put down the books and they'd be
I
like,
remember,
hey, is it time? Are we doing this?
Yeah.
It's
time for your soul to burn, guys.
Yeah.
And I remember that's the first game, maybe only game, that I've wanted to practice so I would be good when we all played together. And I became very good with a credit card in our dorm, and I would actually pick Brian's door, open, break and enter into his room so I could fire up his Dreamcast and practice with Valdo and get all of his moves down.
You destroyed
before the
me with
session
Valdo.
that night.
He destroyed me.
Dude, Valdo was a tricky.
Valdo and Ivy. Like if you could master those characters, like they were my, it's like okay, because his moves were just so like it was always hard to see like is he coming in low or high or he was just so funny with those claws and stuff. Crazy character.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to know that they were breaking into my dorm. Like years later, I'm like, all right.
You showed up and I was like, uh-oh, I'm busted. You go, how'd you get in here? I go, credit card. You got to show me that.
You left it open, man. I've been meaning to say something.
The funny thing, and the reason why I'm glad he brought up Soul Calibur, because if he didn't, I wanted to bring this up, is it's so interesting. So it's like this moment, this thing that we both share, so like, it's burned into our souls. We share it so well, is that it almost didn't happen. It was like, I was like doing some homework and you're like, hey, can we borrow this? Because I forgot who your roommate was at the time. Do you remember? Dustin, thank you. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, well, Soul Calibur's really good. You might like Marvel versus Capcom because that was like really good and it might ring, more true. And there's a couple other games. And I was like, and then I come back in, like I come back to check on you guys the next day, and it was like the room was packed, and you were like who cares? You can burn these other games. Soul Calibur is incredible. Like, oh, I'm so glad you like it. I love this game. I just, and then it was like Ian said, everybody, like the whole floor, it became this just event that happened nightly, and it was just, and people, gravitated. Like you were Volvo, I like Mitsurugi, and then you kind of had your 2 or 3 characters, so that you kind of evolved to, and people got like really good. Like it was just to the point where it was some of the most amazing competition that we played. Anyway, so Ian and I share that as a great just game and moment, because not only of duration, but nowhere, like this is before, like obviously the Dreamcast, and there was a big internet, option and opportunity. So it was something that I don't think could be replicated again unless you were to be in college without big internet gaming and just have that one sensational game that just melts people's faces. Anyway,
I've got to put an epilogue to that, Brian. I don't know if I've ever told you about this. So I did theater and dance, and I'm out here doing TV and film. And when I was at St. Greg's at our college, I did a ballet. This place hired me to be one of the principal dancers in their Nutcracker, and I stayed with these 2 guys because it was a bit of a drive, and they're younger, about year or 2 younger than me. And we were up hanging out, and they go, hey, man, have you ever heard of this game called Soul Calibur? And I go, have I? I majored in that my freshman year in college.
No, man, you totally could have said no, but like, I don't know, maybe if you could like teach me like a little bit, then like after I kind of get used to it, we could like bet dinner on it.
It's like,
I had not developed my devious DNA bit at that point. And these guys were like arrogant and cocky. They're like, oh man, we're so good at this game. We play it all the time. And I was like, all right, well, let's play. I crushed them, Brian.
Makes me so
I pulled out my Valdo, and they didn't know what to do because they played like Killick and and Maxi and Miss Yurgi, they did not know what to do against Valdo.
That brings me such joy and pride. So many years later, it's just like, yes. And if at some point it lands you a major role, that will be just like the icing on the cake. It's like, what could have happened? Well, the reason we hired him is because he's incredible at Soul Calibur, and this role requires that.
Well, I should totally be Siegfried in a movie adaptation. Let's do this.
Heck yeah, man. All right, you hear it here first. If you're a casting director, you're looking for a Siegfried, we've got the man. He knows how to play it, and he's got the look. All right. Well, let's throw over to Chris so we can just kind of bounce around on great gaming moments in our history. So Chris, great gaming moments.
The obvious suggestion is your big iconic games, your Zelda Ocarina of Time that set aside a genre for forever. Your World of Warcraft that is still just wreaking havoc after
destroying
over a decade of just constantly setting new levels. But I think what stands out to me most is in my dorms we played Halo across the network, and
so y'all had that. That's pretty sweet. Yeah,
we did. But I think I have to mostly focus on. For those of you that don't know, the way I know Brian is his little brother was my college roommate. And so we played Rainbow Six Vegas 2, not on the internet, in our first house together.
Nice.
And there's this mode where you take on a bunch of terrorists and you set it to maximum numbers. There's like 50 on a level. And then you play hot seat and you make it to where if they shoot you once, you die, you get one respawn, and you're out. And then whoever runs out of respawns on a team of 2 first has to give up their seat. And you just keep rotating through the house. And it would be on for days straight. And it would just be this constant. And I would walk in, and there were 4 of us that lived there. And there would be 6 people in the living room playing. Not a single one of them was on the lease.
Wow.
None of us were home. Like, we would all leave for class one at a time, and we would all trickle back in. There were just people in our house, which means if they never stop playing, there's nobody to lock up. Like, nobody has a key. It's just helping themselves to no, you got to wait your turn. I was like, I live here. Like, that's my Xbox. Yeah, and you can wait your turn like everybody else.
It's like the rules were established.
I don't know if you've heard of the house rules. I wrote the house rules. We literally had them on a corkboard.
Then you should be very familiar with them.
And then I know we kind of talked about maybe mentioning a few. Other than that, it's just any game that I played with my brothers. So nice. I played Call of Duty. I hated Call of Duty. I hated it. But I played it to play with them, and now I'm actually pretty good at it. And that came from when we were growing up, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark. Now we play Halo together, Titanfall. It's always shooters because it's the one genre that the 3 of us can all really dig into.
Violence brings brothers closer.
Oh, it does. It does. My wife, so when she first, to digress totally, I know you guys talked about the game and the mechanics, but so my wife, when we were first dating, me and my brothers were living together. This was when I was in grad school. It was the 3 of us in a house, and she walked in, and I was finishing getting ready because I'd just gotten off work, and they had 2 32-inch screens right next to each other, sitting on like a plastic folding table, and they're both sitting on
priorities.
Bean bags.
It's like give me the crap table.
I got a crap table and beanbag chairs, but we've got tons of equipment here because we had 3 Xboxes in a row with 3 TVs.
Wow.
And Ethernet cords running up the wall so that they'd run over the door frames and stuff. So we were all hardlined in because you don't want that lag for a single moment. And they're playing Call of Duty. And my brother Adam is an incredible sniper. And he's popping off headshots. And it's just 1, 2, 3, reload. 1, 2, 3, reload. 1, body shot, headshot, reload. She goes, "You suck." And they didn't even know her. And he just got the 1 body shot in there. And she's like, "You got to hit him in the head, man." And my brother Todd was like, "Boom."
Marry this woman.
Yep.
Yeah, when you can walk in and start talking trash, that's always impressive.
Yes. All right, to dovetail off of the...
yeah, go ahead.
To dovetail off of the headshot, one of my other all-time great favorite games started with Resident Evil in the dorms again, the re-release on the GameCube. I didn't get in on it when it was N64 or PlayStation, whatever it was.
I skipped that as well.
Yeah, but when they re-released it on GameCube, updated graphics and stuff, my gosh, I fell in love with that franchise. And they re-released everything on GameCube. And then they did the Zero and led into Resident Evil 4. Yeah. I fell in love with that franchise, and just that's the first time I ever played a survival horror game. And I remember, again, the communal aspect of it. We were in the dorms, and Mike Hill, I don't know if you remember him, Brian.
Yeah, I remember Mike.
He would. So we were hanging out and playing, and we were all getting scared at these startle moments. And Mike was just like, "You wusses."
Yeah.
You guys.
That's not what he said. Just walk internet.
No,
like
not.
He is censoring. Like when you said Mike Hill, I was like, immediately I go, I just had 5 quotes, in my head that pop up that I can't share.
Yes. So he was just making.
Hopefully he's doing well.
Oh, he's doing great. We Facebook every once in a while.
We're gonna have to send him the link to this podcast. Be like, Mike, you made the show.
He totally did. So he's sitting on our little love seat in the dorm, and he's making fun of us because we're like startling every once in a while. And then this big boulder just creaks, and he jumps out of his chair and drops a couple of expletives. And I was like, this is amazing. But the headshot thing, Resident Evil 4, when that released,
I remember over the shoulder stuff, so you could really help aim.
Exactly. And I remember the gratifying feeling of getting a headshot on a zombie and seeing that head just explode.
And that game creeped me out.
It was disturbing, but just so well.
So well done.
I've replayed that game. This is not an exaggeration. From start to finish, probably 6 times.
That's amazing. That actually, that was so. Like you were talking about, like obviously, I remember when Resident Evil 0 came out. I remember getting that, and I remember, like, Mark, you're playing the game. I'm gonna watch because it was I always freaked out. Like I'd be like, oh, it was so intense. So I was like, no, you're gonna play, and he would make fun of me for it so much. But then with 4, I got into it because I felt like, because it was interesting. The debate that was happening at the time was, is the movement controls, is the difficulty in movement adding to the fear factor because it's not so easily to get around, and it's like, can it still be scary? And it's like, I thought 4 was very scary. 5 not so much, and what they did with 5 was they brought in multiplayer, which was fun as all get out. But when you're playing with a buddy, things are less scary because it's like, you got my back. It's like, because that's the whole thing that they would always get you, is that
you just jack the difficulty up and then turn out the lights, and you live in an old house at the time, which never bothered me until I played that game. And all that creaking noises right when the multiplayer got added. I just remember that's how we kind of brought the difficulty back. Was
have you guys seen the kind of the thing for Resident Evil 7 that they were showing off at E3 this year?
So I saw that it was up, but I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, so they have a thing, and it's also can be experienced in VR, and it looked freaky. Chainsaw Massacre, just creepy as you're walking through the house and opening the doors in VR, and it was just like, I don't think I could do it. I just
well, the chainsaw, the moments of gaming in my life, one of those like holy moments was one, the interactive cutscenes of Resident Evil 4, which I never experienced. I think it started with God of War, maybe. Yeah. But I'm used to cutscene. Put your controller down, go get another beer, and then whatever. But all of a sudden, that Lake Lago or whatever in Resident Evil 4, and all of a sudden, my leg or Leon's leg has gotten caught by a tentacle or something. You got to start tapping A. It freaked me out. And then later on in the game, when that crazy chainsaw person comes at you and you get cut in half. Yeah. I just freaked. I remember Dustin was with me. We were like, what is this game? This is too much. And then we kept on playing it for like 4 more hours.
Well, with that, I want to go and wrap up the show. Special thanks for Ian and Chris for coming on the podcast today. Hopefully, we'll be able to get you guys both back on. For those of you listening, please be sure to check out ianhutton.com to see what Ian's got in the works and what he's already done. And then, obviously, tune in here again next week for another podcast. So, with that, I hope everybody has a fantastic week. Take care. If only Metallica would license this episode. Yeah, it's like, give me 5, give me double chips. Sorry. All right, that's
one of my favorite songs ever, Brian.
Oh, it's a fantastic song.
I'm still trying to change my license plate to not say Corizon.
Corizon.
You win.